Greetings from King Edward VII Hospital as my recovery continues apace. Today I was in the hydro pool, I think is what it's called, trying to get some movement into my repaired acetibular and pelvis. And the water was delightfully warm. It was as warm as the water in the Caribbean Sea. And I'm pleased to say it was a lot warmer than the water in the Aegean or the Mediterranean seas. So I say that for what it's worth. Fingers crossed, my progress will continue apace. Don't be fooled. You're seeing me at my best when you see me here. I put my best foot forward, and the whole thing is beyond a monumental struggle. But I'm in the very best hands, and I cannot thank them enough, especially my wonderful surgeon, Paul Culpen. So, without further ado, I will now plunge in with what Marcia Kennedy says. Well, based on your logic, maybe Harry and Meghan do have something to complain about regarding the British press. My dear, I've never said they didn't. Nor have I ever said I didn't. I've made it absolutely clear that the British press can be a malignant and destructive force. I've never said they didn't have a point. My point has been that their priorities are wrong and that they make points beyond those which should be made. For instance, I have sued the 5 major newspaper companies in this country. So I have nothing against suing a newspaper company. I do have something against trying to destroy a newspaper company, trying to use such power as one would have to deprive them of their rights, which is precisely what David Sherborne and that whole lot, including Prince Harry, have tried to do. So let's be very clear about let me rephrase that. Let's be very clear about where I draw the lines, because I'm not saying anybody should be an ideal victim, and I'm certainly not saying anybody should be a willing victim. But what I am saying is you shouldn't use your victim status to destroy an organ which is intended to protect the democratic freedoms of the people of this country, especially at a time when those democratic freedoms are already under stress, strain, and duress from several different forces. So, I know this is not going to answer the question wholly, and it's a big question, and I'm in pain. It's a big question, and it's a big debate, and there are many facets to it. So, but Harry and Meghan do have a point. You know, you can have a point and be in the right up to a point, and make yourself totally in the wrong, the way you carry through on your point and the way you use your point to achieve an objective that A, you're not entitled to, and B, would be destructive not only of your own interests, but the interests of the citizens of this country. So, IVC says, Meghan has been very busy these last few days. She's attended Kris Jenner's 70th, now been photographed as you predicted would happen, with Serena Williams, and has dropped the news on Instagram that her Netflix Christmas special airs on the 3rd of December. Meow. Do you see any hope of success? Or is this just more of the same Meghan rubbish? I love it. Thank you. It's more of the same Meghan rubbish. Meghan has made every single mistake it is possible to make in trying to bring off a successful life in the public eye. She has presented herself as a creature of glamour while demanded that she be treated as a figure of reverence and of pity. How does that work? Right there's a conflict. Her recent forays, well, she's aired the special for the 3rd of September, which coincides with the kickoff of the German president's state visit. I don't think any of those dairy conflicts are actually injurious to the royal family generally. I think at one point when Meghan and Harry were popular and they were able to steal attention, that sort of game was more effectively played by them. But nowadays, nobody's sufficiently interested that they knock anybody off the front pages of anything. I don't even think if they came up with anything genuine and big, that it would be such big news, no matter how big it was, that it would actually knock their rivals off the front pages of the newspapers anymore. Yes, they might have to share coverage, but that's actually not necessarily a negative. There are ways of looking at it where that can actually be a positive. So, did she choose the date knowing, or was the date chosen by Netflix not knowing? Or did they know and not care? I think it's immaterial. A certain amount of conflict of schedule is inevitable because you're dealing with busy people. And Netflix also wants to give itself the optimum chance. But by doing it on the 3rd of December, they are showing that they do not regard this as a particularly desirable or possibly successful Christmas special. Also, Meghan was in a festive green evening gown because, of course, Christmas colours are green and red. But she can't call it Christmas. It has to be the holidays. Because let's remember, Meghan's not a Christian, so Christmas means nothing to her. What else did she do that I found interesting? She made the point that the Christmas special is about tradition and respecting old traditions and creating new traditions. Now, this is a woman who spent the whole time she was in the royal family mocking relentlessly any attempt to enlighten her as to the positivity of anything traditional. It's there in my first and second editions of Meghan and Harry, the real story. She and Harry created tremendous offence amongst their own social circle by flagrantly flying in the face of convention and of tradition and making the point that they were too happening, too modern, too interchange to care about tradition. And anything that they wished to overturn, for instance, they wanted to be seated together during a dinner party so that she could push her tongue down his hair and clean it. And he would want to do the equivalent, much to the distaste of everybody concerned, including the fact that at dinner parties in civilized circles in this country, once you're married, you're separated at a dinner table. If you're engaged, you're not. But if you're married, you are. The hypothesis being that since you're together all the time, you don't want to speak to each other. You want to widen your horizons and speak to other people. It's as simple as that. But it's really interesting when it suits Meghan to play a card, for instance, the tradition card. That's a valid card to play. But when it suits her to overturn it and play the anti-tradition card, that's equally valid. The woman has no ethical consistency, no behavioral consistency, no line of reason, save attention and money. And I'm afraid it comes across too loudly and too clearly. And when she captions something saying, embrace traditions and make new ones this holiday season, with love, Meghan, holiday celebration arrives December 3rd on Netflix. She's not fooling a soul, except possibly the few bots and spots that still exist on her platform. Peter P. says, Lady C, I'm amazed at the traction Michael Prescott's leaked complaints about the BBC have achieved in so brief a time. The Telegraph, you, and now President Trump's threat to sue the BBC for £1 billion, I think it might be dollars, have focused attention in a wholly surprising way, forcing recognition of a problem. It's easy to believe the BBC and the rest of the media want to disappear. You're good at getting below the layers. What do you think is actually going on? And will it make a difference at the end of the day? Well, I think Michael Prescott has leaked something that he felt needed to be leaked. I think he has behaved exemplarily. It doesn't surprise me that the BBC has come out punching. It's Mr. Shah has been coming out with remarks. He has accused Michael Prescott of a personal account which gives only a partial view of events. Well, in a 1,600-word letter to the Culture, Media and Sports Committee, Mr. Shah admitted that there were occasions when the BBC got things wrong, but claimed the leaked report did not present the full picture. What he's really complaining about is that he presented too full a picture. But according to him, and I'm quoting, Michael Prescott's memo gives only a partial description of the evidence that Editorial Guidelines and Standards Committee received and considered. He denied that the BBC was trying to bury anything, claiming that interpretation is simply not true. The issues raised by Mr. Prescott are precisely the issues that have been considered by the Editorial Guidelines and Standards Committee and the board. According to Shaw, Prescott relied on evidence compiled about editorial guidelines to make the BBC's position on issues clear, made changes to leadership where the problems pointed to underlying issues, and carried out formal disciplinary measures. A whole load of codswallop. What he's basically saying is Mr. Prescott's leaked complaint was too comprehensive. It was so comprehensive that it focused wrongdoing on the wrongdoers, and it didn't provide the balance that the BBC regards as fundamental, where somebody does wrong, they provide justification. Somebody does right, they provide justification. Somebody's accused of something, they provide excuses. And when they can't lie their way out of something with sufficient excuses, they then assert bias. They then say it's not comprehensive. Obviously, no complaint can be wholly comprehensive, nor does the complainant justify the complainees, the behaviour of the person whose behaviour is being complained about. This is typical BBC claptrap. And of course, they are seriously worried because President Trump has given them until Friday to come up with an answer as to why they shouldn't be sued, where there are other jurisdictions that apply, such as Florida, and to the tune of, at starting point, $1 million. The fact of the matter is, the BBC, as I have said time and again in the last few years, and I will make the point, I'm one of the very few people who has pointed out that the BBC has a shockingly disgraceful long-term record in trying to undermine certain systems of government. And they have no compunction about lying, falsifying, inventing. They brought down the Emperor of Ethiopia proudly. They brought down the Shah of Iran proudly. The Emperor of Ethiopia was replaced by a monster called Mengistu, one of whose henchmen, Dr. Tedros, is in charge of the World Health Organization. Let's remember that. Don't think these people disappear. They don't. The Iranian monarchy was brought down to be replaced by the rabid theocracy of Khomeini, then Khamenei, etc., etc., where young people of certain persuasions are encouraged to step off the side of buildings, where there are public spectacles terminating in somebody transferring from earth to heaven momentarily. This is YouTube. I need to choose my words carefully. How were either of those orchestrated downfalls to the benefit of anybody in this world? To the Ethiopian people, absolutely not. To the Iranian people, absolutely not. To the rest of the world, absolutely not. The BBC is a state organization set up to be an arm, an organ, and a voice of this state. It does not represent the true values of the British people or the British state. It seeks to create a country and a world where there will be a socialist nirvana of apparatchiks telling everybody what to do, what to think, what to wear, where to go, and being informed that we will be happy. The consequence of failing to be happy, well, there will be penalties, won't they? There. Read Animal Farm, read 1984. Look at what's going on all over the world, including in this country at the moment. What chance does the BBC have of prevailing? I think Western civilization is involved in an existential struggle where it is either going to survive as a democratic, liberal, conservative, capitalistic entity with socialized aspects, where there is an acceptable and an accepted degree of difference of opinion and of disharmony, positive disharmony, or it is going to continue going down the route it has been going down for some considerable time, which is to use liberal ideals to achieve illiberal objectives and create what will effectively be a new state religion, the religion of socialism. But what form of socialism? Nobody can agree on that, because socialism is already a failed economic and political solution. It certainly was a noble concept in the 19th century when it came into existence, but it's not anymore. And to an extent, what most of the illiberals wish to achieve is an orthodox, obedient, tame society where people are kept in line by an excess of rules and regulations and deprived of the ability to be trouble to the state. What effect will that have? It's going to have tremendous effects. The effect it's having already in this country in terms of the National Health Service is that they sacrifice the well-being and the life of people to achieve economic objectives. We're living in a world that, for all its claims of benevolence, has become extremely malevolent and very adept at concealing that malevolence underneath a total barrage of hypocritical posturing. Shai Diati says, "Dear Lady, I have a question. I just finished Andrew Lowney's book on the rise and fall of the Yorks. My head is still spinning. I would like to know your opinion if Princess Beatrice and Eugenie should be stripped of their titles. Andrew has many shady dealings, allegedly with some people in the Middle East. I see that Princess Beatrice just arrived back from Saudi Arabia after throwing members of the Saudi royal family a tea party. This casts a suspicious spell on her due to her father's dealings. What do you think? Sending many prayers on a daily basis to you." Thank you for that. Your prayers are much appreciated, and I would encourage you to keep sending them. I'm sure they will do some good. I take a very firm and stern view on the sins of a father and a mother being visited upon their children. I also take a very stern view of anybody who goes down the route that every accusation, just because it has been made, is valuable, and if it's been printed, that makes it very valuable. There is little or no doubt that Andrew and Sarah have ended up compromising themselves and their position as a result of rather dodgy financial dealings. And I think Angeloni can commend himself for having brought them down. I do not see that there is any truly valid link, because the children know people their parents know. For instance, other royals and other people who are reputable business people, that just because they're foreign, because let's get into this from this point of view, just because they're foreign, that they should be dodgy and that they should be regarded as dubious. I've got news for you and for Angeloni. We have plenty of evidence of corruption in this country, starting with politicians, continuing with journalists, and ending with many ordinary people, that corruption in this country is rife. For us to think that just because somebody is a royal and a foreigner, that their dealings should be regarded as suspect. This strikes me as being dangerously xenophobic, dangerously racist, dangerously excessive in, and also, to what purpose should those girls' lives be destroyed? Why? Even if they have had some business dealings with their parents' associates, as long as they have done nothing wrong. And let's be clear about the fact, many of Andrew's business dealings have been perfectly above board. The fact that one or two will turn out to have been somewhat suspect is something else again. But I find it a very disturbing and totally ethically unjustifiable that anybody can set up a court of public disapprobation against somebody. And just because there are a whole load of quotes in that book doesn't mean that everything that's quoted is actually accurate either. I think Angeloni has done a good job of ferreting out some valuable information. I also think that there are certain things that he has said and conclusions that he has come to that I cannot agree with. And I made it very clear from the very outset when I was interviewing him. And I respect his right to have a differing opinion. I think he respects my right to have a differing opinion as well. And I'm sorry, I think there's a hell of a difference between a book that seeks to achieve revelation and one that the public are then going to encourage the author to use as a witch hunt, because this is what's happening. And the press are doing it as well. I get why Andrew Loney has a book to promote, and he is taking certain stances that he's taking. I don't agree with all of them. I'm sorry. And truth be told, I don't approve of all of them. And let's leave it at that, because I do not wish to denigrate an agent of mine as well as a colleague of mine, beyond saying that I think the York girls have done nothing wrong. It has been, may I make the point as well, that they and their affairs have been investigated already, and they have not lost their titles. Andrew and Sarah have lost theirs. What? Have we reached the depths of disgustingness in this country that until everybody is dragged into the mire and destroyed, we can't be happy? I think you get my drift on all of this. Mary Grace Hutchinson says, Lady C, what do you think of this anti-monarchy article from the Guardian newspaper? The latest Prince Andrew abuse claims are a new low for the royal family. In this form, it can't survive. Thank you so much for all your hard work. There is no doubt that there is a witch hunt going on. There is no doubt that some of the witch hunters are people who are very anti-royalist, and there is no doubt that there are some who claim to be royalist and who might even be royalist and think that because this monarchy has been around for over 1,000 years, it will continue to stand, and therefore they can exert as much unseemly and unfair pressure upon it as possible. And they'll be able to continue to earn their living off its back tomorrow. There is no doubt that the monarchy is under existential threat at the moment. We have many forces in this country that are anti-monarchist. We also have many forces that are neutral. They're not anti-monarchist, but they don't actually see the merit and the virtue of the monarchy. Maybe they will be like the member of the Duma who said to Grand Duke Sandro after this successful Russian Revolution, how much he regretted the fact that the Duma had contributed to the downfall of the monarchy. Well, it was too late. They'd done it. Did they get a better system? No. They got communism. They got real slavery. They got tens of millions of people being annihilated under the Stalinist regime. And we'll end with what BB says. Lady C, as the all-time breakout star of I'm a Celeb, what do you think of this year's lineup? Well, I think it's actually a good lineup. Now, I've never looked at I'm a Celebrity, I've got to tell you. In the years when they pay me to look at it, I look to the extent I have to, comment what I have to do, and then I don't look anymore. I've never seen my year. I've never seen a full year. It's not my sort of thing. But a very interesting lineup this year. They've got Ruby Wax, the comedian. She is a very interesting woman. She is great value. She's trained as a therapist, having been a comedian. So that's going to be interesting to see whether we get comedian Ruby or we get therapist Ruby. Oh, do tell me your problems. Let's share them with the 10 or 12 or 8 or however many million viewers there are. That would certainly be a choice one. We have Martin Kemp, the actor, who I've actually acted in something with. I played his boss. I was the boss of the crime syndicate that he headed up. And a lot of it was shot down at Castle Goring. And he's a really nice guy, very attractive, very good looking, and really nice. There's Kelly Brook, you know, Kelly, the fabulous Kelly Brook with the fabulous figure, and she was a model, and she's been a DJ, and she's had some very interesting boyfriends, and she's lovely, I gather. I don't know her at all, but I gather she's lovely. Then we have a rapper called H, who's 25 and I know nothing about. And of course we have Alex Scott, the former lioness turned sports broadcaster. She's part Jamaican. So, of course, you know where my sympathies lie right there. Then we have somebody called Angry Dringe, a content creator. Never heard of him. But you need to have a mix. You need to have young people. You need to have older people. You need to have very well-known people. People who are going to rope in the young audience. You have Shona McGarty, who's a former EastEnders actress, and Eddie Cardi, the comedian, Lisa Riley, the Emmerdale actress. So these are all very popular British public figures. Jack Osborne, he's a TV personality. I think it's a nice little melange. And I gather they're going to have Vogue Williams and I forget who else I was told. Somebody else, Vogue Williams and somebody else is going to be joining in. So, to those of you who want to watch, great. I mean, it's been for many years the most popular show on TV. And I think Ant and Dec are great. I think it's a wonderful production, the whole thing. I mean, at any given time, you have 600 people working on it to distill hours and hours and hours of 24/7 news into, I think, an hour or two per DM. It's a lot of work. And of course, they do their political things as well. They evidently try to turn me into a figure that the public wouldn't like, and in the process ended up turning me into a figure that the public enjoyed. So, which is fine. I have no complaints. I thought it was a very good show. And I think that I'm a Celebrity certainly was a game changer for me, because up until I'm a Celebrity, I had been hampered by 40 years of negative press presenting me in an unrepresentative and destructive way. And it's only when the public got to see undistilled Lady C, as they called me, that people realized, oh, actually, all that we've been reading and hearing about her doesn't quite add up. Actually, we may not always like what she says and does, but we basically think she's all right. I'm a celebrity, set me free. That's what it did. It gave me the freedom for the public to see me as I was, and not through the distorted lens of the press. So this will end the way it began. Yes, the mainstream media can be extremely destructive. They can damage your life tremendously. And if I take the responsible view I do about the mainstream media and do not try to destroy them, may I point out that it would be a bit of a stretch to expect me to accept that Harry and Meghan have a right to destroy the liberties of the citizens of this country via the destruction of a free press. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest. Please keep the questions and comments coming in so I'll know what you'd like us to be speaking about. Okay? And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please remember to hype. It evidently makes a difference. Godspeed. Bye-bye.